3, 2.
So we decided to make a crime thriller film and we titled it Untraceable.
The first question is, in what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? And the first thing we thought was that we decided to include a murder scene in the beginning of our 2-minute intro. And this was to really grip our viewers. And it's a definite convention of a crime thriller film because we want to see how the murderer would kill his victims, and we want to get a reaction out of our audience. The second one, challenging, is that our characters are of completely different ethnic backgrounds. We wouldn't expect to see someone like a police chief be of an ethnic minority like it is in our film. We would expect to see someone of white being kind of older, but our characters are more younger and of different ethnic backgrounds, such as our victim who is Asian, and that would be contrast to the normal kind of white female victim that you'd see in the beginning.
Also, it's very common in scenes of tension for crime thrillers to use camera effects. So, for example, we use black and white in this scene here to emphasize the connotations of death and darkness.
So the second question was about how does your media product represent particular social groups? Well, our central protagonist was a mixed-race male, and it's not the usual. And then we also have a donor who was a black male, and it's not a typical representation because traditionally you see white people as being in power and being on top rather than black males or mixed-race people. So we challenge ethnicity to present equality rather than the traditional view that the audience are used to seeing. Then also we have gender imbalance throughout the whole opening 2 minutes because, as we said, the audience is males, so we are more likely to focus on male audience and more attracting them. So the only female that we have is pretty much the victim, which you saw at the beginning of the opening 2 minutes.
This also suits our conventions as young women are typically the victims in thrillers and murders.
What kind of institution might distribute our media product? We chose Lionsgate because we feel like they're typically associated with the thriller films. For example, they distributed Divergent, which is a thriller film, and it was one of their highest grossing films. So we feel like they could, if we were to get them in on our media product, they would really help send our film, get it to different places where we couldn't reach, and really
Okay, who is our audience? Well, our audience is aged between 16 and 30, and it would be aimed at males because throughout the opening we see mainly males, and also it shows a bit of violence, so this would appeal more to males because it's interesting more and it's more exciting for them. However, females may be interested in it because it has males in it and they would be attracted to them, hopefully. But yeah, it would mainly be aimed at males. Also, the murder scene, so it hints towards violence, of course. So we don't see it, but it shows that throughout the film there will be a lot of violence and it will be quite explicit. So that's why for the age range it will be from 16 to 30. And yeah, this is just typical for thrillers because they usually have some sort of violence and mystery in it. So we have our violence as in the victims killed, but also it's mystery because we don't know who's done it and we don't know how they died quite yet.
One of the other great appeals of crime thrillers is typically there's quite a lot of explicit material in terms of violence, gore and language, but due to the rules we had to follow in our media product, we couldn't present these, so we had to hint towards violence in our medicine.
We also, with the black and white effect, we thought that could appeal to a kind of older audience just because it's very representative of like a noir film, and this would attract maybe an older audience which might not typically watch a detective thriller film.
So how do we attract or address our audience? We interviewed a range of people, 5 particularly, 2 males and 2 females. The males being our key audience, we interviewed a 16-year-old and someone in their late 20s. just so we could get true range of the spectrum in terms of what they like. Fortunately for us, both of them seem to like similar aspects, so they like the characters and like the mystery, but they also had an appeal to the violence, as they thought this was an appealing thing to see in the thriller. We interviewed 3 women and more than men because as a group we didn't know as much about females, and with women having a large film attendance, we decided to interview more of them so we could find out more information about what women like in genre, and we found out they're very much more interested in the characters' scenes, which is why we increased our dialogue scenes.
Now we looked at the technologies that we used to create this 2-minute intro. I was mainly looking at Final Cut, which is the editing software, to piece together all the footage. And the main things we looked at were reducing the size of the clips, changing saturation and brightness to make it look like it is in nighttime or black and white, made a darker feel. The credits was one of the main things we had to implement because we needed to put in the composition, the style, the colour, and sound bleeding to make the conversation feel natural and flowing. So here is the cutting, which was just simply putting your cursor over the footage, which you need to cut, and then trimming start or end to get rid of excess footage. Then the credits was, we composed it in the bottom right corner, and we kept it there to keep it consistent because we felt like that would represent a real media product. And then here is sound bleeding by just detaching audio and putting it over the different clips. And the colour balance by doing colour boards and changing hue, saturation and brightness.
Okay, so throughout the whole process I was in charge of the camera, and at first I thought